All right, guys. So today is Friday the 13th. This is supposed to be, it's supposed to be an unlucky day, but today I am pretty much lucky enough to give you this live stream, though. Um, you know. So I don't think nothing bad has happened to me today so far. So I'm perfectly fine doing this live stream. And yeah. So if any of you guys want to say something in the chat, then just go ahead. As long as there isn't anything inappropriate. I know I keep saying this before, but you know. So this could potentially be a shorter live stream, but you know, I'm waiting to see how it goes so far. So yeah. So I'm gonna be talking about like a few things that I've actually wanted to talk about for quite a while now. So I'm gonna start off with, some announcement I'm gonna be making. So on one of my community posts, I told you guys that I might be bringing you a surprise thing for to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of my remake series. Now, if you don't know what the remake series is, it's this collection of videos where I just remade certain Thomas and Friends episodes, back in like 2021 and 2022. I stopped doing those in 2023 and 2024, except for like the Thomas, Percy, and the Dragon episode, which is the only remake episode I've done in 2024. And then 2025 and 2023 were the years I didn't do anything at all with that. It was like I was taking a break with them for some reason. But now I'm going to give some more things about this. So yeah. The reason why I'm doing this as this is because they are the most viewed videos on my YouTube channel so far. I mean, the Flying Kipper and Duncan Gets Spooked ones were they were like the most viewed videos on my YouTube channel, which is pretty amazing. That's pretty cool, eh? So, guys, what do you think of those remake episodes? Then, if you want to say something in the chat, then go ahead. As long as there's like viewers watching me, because which I don't see anything yet. If not, then I'm just gonna move on to my next thing I'm gonna be talking about during this live stream. So yeah. So this is what I wanted to talk about. So according to one of my YouTube polls I've done on this channel, I asked a handful of my followers about what are your favorite types of vehicles, and the majority of them said they like trains. Now, I'll be no, no. There was like a handful of them that said they like cars and bicycles and and planes too, which I all think they're pretty cool. But trains was like the one that just got my attention the most. I'm not even surprised. Now, it would be obvious that they watched some of my Thomas the Tank Engine remake episodes, as well as some other related videos. But I was also wondering why else they like trains. So, for one thing, trains carry more passengers than cars and bicycles. Buses, planes, and cruise ships also carry lots of passengers. But if you were to ask someone of which one of the three is more beneficial, I'd go for trains. Why, you may ask me? Well, from what I've heard, trains are more environmentally friendly than cars and planes. Rail transport is highly energy efficient and can produce up to 5 times fewer greenhouse gases than cars. So some trains are even electric, kind of like subway trains. And I've actually been on one of these things before. I mean, electric trains are even more energy efficient than steam locomotives and diesel locomotives because they have a much lower carbon footprint. Though I'm not sure if this whole thing I've explained is one of the reasons why people think trains are like the greatest vehicles to ever exist. But it could be one of these reasons. So, what are the reasons you guys like trains so much? Um, Actually, I think I have a few more reasons to cover. So, yeah, of course, some trains are not always eco-friendly because steam locomotives and diesel locomotives both pollute air with their smoke and steam. It's understandable why the steam locomotives are not used too often these days, so it's more common to see diesel locomotives run on railways. So, yeah, electric trains are like, more efficient than steam and diesel locomotives, from what I've heard. And it's easy to see why, because they don't pollute too much often. And trust me, I did have encounters with, the electric and diesel locomotives before when I was, on my way to university and, trying to catch the train to get to my destinations. They are actually a little scarier than electric trains. I'm talking about the diesel locomotives here, if I'm being honest. Especially when you first see them pass by the platform you're standing on after you hear the rumbling noises they make. Yeah, they're pretty loud, I guess, especially when they pass by, and I bet their horns would be even louder, I guess. I mean, steam locomotives are also pretty loud, but and their whistles are like pretty, they're pretty alarming at times. Imagine staying close to one. But, another reason why I think people like trains so much is because they don't feel bumpy too often and are more stable when compared to cars, buses, and planes. Now, because cars and buses, when you drive on the roads with bumps on them, it can make you feel slightly unstable. So you kind of like jitter around in your seat for some time. And also, the cars and trucks and buses often have accidents at times. Yeah, this is said in like one of the Thomas episodes, which is Toby the Tram Engine. The narrator literally states that cars and trucks often have accidents. Toby has never had an accident, but right. In order for not me to not get carried away, I'm just gonna continue on saying that cars and buses and trucks feel slightly unstable when they drive on bumpy roads. The road's not usually isn't always a safe place for traveling, for that matter. And the same thing goes for planes and air travel. Planes when they go into turbulence and they start, they shake and shudder around. And I know that many people have had this experience with planes before, and they get airsick at times. Trust me, I've had the experience with airplane travel before, and I just couldn't stand it. I mean, cruise ships are also a similar case since they can make people feel a bit nauseous at times, especially if they're not used to traveling on the water. And I can understand that. But with trains, you just travel on a piece of rail track for distances. They do shake and shudder at times, but just not heavily like planes do. And for the most part, they stay completely upright. Like I don't usually I don't get sick while I'm on trains too often. I just stay relaxed and stuff like that while just, doing things, on my seat and watching some videos or just listening to music. That's what a that's what a normal person would do when they're on a train. Otherwise, they'll just look out the window and see all the great views and stuff like that. Speaking of which, trains also feel like a moving building for some reason because the inside of the carriages kind of look like long corridors with lots of seats for passengers to sit on. as well as staircases, tables, and even some windows for people to look at the outside views. So that's another reason why I think trains are cool and amazing. But it's just imagine just staying in a train carriage as your home. Then I don't know how good it would feel to do that way, but you probably don't want to get spot by the guards or some other passengers if they're like if you're just using the train as your house, then that'll be pretty weird. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Friday the 13th a little bit. So Friday the 13th, like I said before, it's like an unlucky day, but for some reason I started get like sometimes bad things don't happen to me on this day, to be honest. Like nothing bad happened to me today on Friday the 13th, actually. So yeah, I'm especially I'm especially good just doing this live stream just for kicks, stuff like that. Okay, so the reason why I think no, I mean some people think Friday the 13th is unlucky because it's tied to the Last Supper in Christianity, when Jesus Christ reportedly dined with 12 apostles, totaling 13 at the table before his betrayal. I guess it could make sense. I mean, there's like a lot of theories as to why Friday the 13th is considered, a bad day. And also the fact that the number 13 is definitely considered to be unlucky for centuries. I mean, that's what most sources think, why Friday the 13th is considered this. It's the day that the day that became associated with with bad things happening in, Western culture. The number 13, meanwhile, has long been seen as a symbol of, disruption. Yeah, but the weird thing is, Friday the 13th is usually a day that, a lot of bad things don't happen to me. Like, I don't get very angry on this day, or just, I don't get hurt or anything, like just like today, I was completely fine on that day. Yes, stuff like that. And I'm especially lucky doing this live stream on YouTube, stuff like that. And yeah. Right, so now I'm going to be talking about, some reasons why I decided to take a break from the remake series. One of the reasons that they're time constraining. So that the Thomas and Friends remake episodes I did, they took me like long amounts of time for me to make. They're like real challenges. Like they take around like 30 minutes or even hours for me to make. And considering the fact that, I had to record all the screenshots as well as the video footages for each scene and and shot of the engines, that was pretty tiring. Some scenes were even very hard for me to make, especially in like some remakes of season 5 episodes. Although I did have a lot of fun with making them actually, because you know, some of the scenes were pretty action packed and intense. I decided to make them look better, I guess. Now you might be thinking that I just said I was gonna, I was gonna stop doing the remake series episodes for quite some time, like until I made that one episode in 2024. Which you should go check that out because it's actually pretty interesting. I made that myself, and I mean, sure, it's a remake or anything. It's something like original content, but but still, it's a pretty well made remake, I gotta say. Anyway, so I didn't do any remake episodes in 2023 and 2025, like I said before, because I feel like I was. I mean, I didn't really retire from them. I was thinking I wasn't gonna retire from them, and I was just taking a break from them. In reality. I said that I was gonna retire from making them, but I was like, I guess I changed gears for that. I mean, 2026 for this year, I'm not gonna do like full remake episodes because, like I said before, they take me long amounts of time for me to make and are pretty time consuming. So that's why I'm probably gonna do like what I'm probably gonna do is like either do remakes of very short clips of or snippets of some episodes and or some important scenes in episodes or just maybe some. Actually that's what I might consider to be doing. Sorry about my grammar. I don't know why I tend to stutter sometimes. All right, so I'm just looking through some of my videos and just watching some of my old remake episodes, just seeing how good they were. No, I would show them. I would show bits of them, but I just don't want to. I'm just kind of too lazy to do that.
Up in the
But you can still hear the
mountains
audio, I guess.
it had stood alone for a long time, but one day workmen arrived to build a quarry on the land below. Rusty, the little diesel, met Thomas and Percy.
So yeah, that's pretty cool, eh? I just made this episode. I mean, the Rusty and the Boulder episode was definitely an episode I had fun making, especially with the border scenes, when he was chasing some of the engines. That was just so funny. And that explosion scene was pretty good too. And I know how Percy felt about this. You know, he was just so scared that the boulder was going to hit him, but to his surprise, it hit a shed, which I'm guessing might have been filled with, explosives and stuff like that. And then just caused a straight up explosion with fire in it. That was so crazy. I mean, some people might have been traumatized by that scene when they were a little kid, but But when I first saw it, it didn't scare me that much. But I understand that it could scare people, and they might think it'd be like one of the scariest scenes they've ever watched from like a popular kids franchise or stuff like that. I mean, Thomas isn't just for kids; it's also for adults and grandparents alike. It's basically for everyone. So yeah. So guys, do not say that Thomas is a baby show. Speaking of the boulder, I think there's definitely a lot of mysteries about this boulder. Where to get that face from, and does it even have a mind of its own? And does it still watch Rusty and some of the other engines on the narrow gauge railway, like as they pass by it? Like there's always something mysterious about the episode Rusty and the Boulder. I mean, another interesting thing about this episode is that this is like one of the few Thomas episodes in the classic series that was made for merchandise. I mean, there's like a wooden railway set of Rusty and the Boulder based on that episode, where you get I mean, if you look at the set itself, then you'll see what I mean. Even if you don't have the set in your collection, then I'm sure you'll find it pretty interesting. So I'm currently watching one of my other YouTube videos I've made. It's done in My Monsters Composer. It's like it's where I recreate the Thomas the Tank Engine theme in My Monsters. I'm just reading the comments for a bit. One person said that this is still a bop from 1984 to 2023, and I said, yeah, I agree with him. So yeah. Of course, who doesn't like the original theme from the the classic Thomas the Tank Engine series? Because that's just very iconic. It's a straight up classic. I mean, the engine roll call theme from the hit entertainment era was good too. But I think most people prefer, the original classic song, which I'm probably not going to play in this live stream because, it's copyrighted, and I don't want to get a strike for that one, or a claim for that matter. All right, so I'm actually watching this Good Morning Britain news footage, which shows Thomas the Tank Engine's new look.
Now, here's one for you, Ed. At 80 years of age, Thomas the Tank Engine has let many a glow up, but he's advocating a more natural look.
Thomas didn't miss the news. Mr. News reporter, Thomas didn't chug onto the television screen in 1945. It's actually 1984. What you're meant to say is, you know, actually, no offense to him, he just, wait. I think did he say?
First chugging onto the scene in 1945.
Oh, the scene. Sorry, my bad. The scene. I think he was meant to say, the he was introduced to the world in 1945, but I thought he was introduced in 1946, but still the same, but still like around the same time, So what he says is that he first chugged to the scene in 1945 and then became like.
The scene in 1945, Thomas has gone from the classic look from his books to CGI and most recently a 2D animation.
Origins Go.
Extensive research among parents and kids seems you can't top the original. I can exclusively reveal Thomas's new look. Everyone's most recognizable locomotive is still just that, as he debuts with jump on board.
It's classic Thomas.
The thought behind it was to go back to his roots, if indeed locomotives have roots, certainly back to his wheels. The year was 1983, so there you have it. A little bit of a tickle, but very, very familiar. Thomas and his friends will be back on track this autumn on Channel 5.
It'll be back on, So if they say it's gonna be an autumn or fall, like whatever way you pronounce it, I'm guessing that it's gonna probably premiere in like September, October, or something like that. I mean, I'm curious to see what this new show is about. But in all seriousness, it's great to see Thomas the Tank Engine, the OG one, back again with a new design. I mean, lots of fans are glad to see that Thomas is still is back to looking like what he used to look like, rather than just a crappy 2D animated all engines go design. So that's good to hear. So it looks like the Thomas the Tank Engine 2026 series looks promising. I hope it's gonna be good, and I hope it's not like very crappy like All Engines Go. And I'm wondering if how good this show might be when compared to the classic show. I mean, it definitely won't top the classic series for sure, but it's gonna help All Engines Go. That's for sure. So I can understand why they decided to do this. with Thomas because, lots of people weren't happy with Origins Go and Big World Big Adventures. So Mattel made this decision to, go back to its original roots. So yeah. And with that being said, I think I've run out of things to talk about in this live stream. So yeah, I'm going to end it here. So I hope you guys stay safe on this day if you can, because, Friday the 13th is is an unlucky day. So I hope nothing bad happens to you, but still. But I'm sure you'll be safe the next day. That's for sure. So yeah. This is ZS54 Studios signing off, and I'm going to be ending this live stream